Most people try to explain Eyes Wide Shut by focusing on what happens in the story. Secret societies, the ritual itself, and whether it's all real or not. But I think that approach kind of misses what the movie is actually doing, because structurally it doesn't behave like a normal narrative. It behaves like a dream. And I don't just mean that in a vague way, I mean the actual construction of the film, how scenes connect, how events repeat, how people show up, works the same way a dream does, typically. And that idea goes all the way back to the source material, as many of you know, Traum Nouvelle, which literally means dream story. My name's Joe, this is the NMRW. Let's talk more about Eyes Wide Shut. You know, this is one of my favorite films of all time, and I have to say, for 30 years or more, Stanley Kubrick wanted to make this movie. Is it Kubrick or Kubrick? Comment below. And there was one reason why he wanted to make it. He thought it might help elevate the form of art that was film. And the reason that was is because he found a book called Traum Nouvelle that treated a story as if it were taking place kind of like the way people say that their dreams often take place. That's what he wanted you to experience in this movie. Conspiracy theories aside, we can also get into those a little bit. That's fun. And I've said this before, but he actually wanted to construct it like a dream and make you feel like you were walking out of a dream when you were exiting that theater. Another key element that points toward the structure of a dream being used to write this movie and to film it is that melody that we recognize. It goes E-F-F, E-E-F, followed by F-E-E-F-F-E. You don't have to understand the music theory to understand that those letters that I just mentioned are mirrors of each other. One is backwards, depending on how you look at it, from which perspective you look at it. And our dreams mirror our own reality, and the scenes in this movie mirror Bill's psychology, and they also mirror his past, including scenes that have happened in the movie already. Kubrick understood music. He loved contemporary orchestral music, classical music, jazz, and he listened to it all the time while he was editing, apparently. That mirrored melody has a lot to do with the dreamscape of this movie. There's this constant feeling that things are slightly off. It's hard to explain why. The dialogue is just a little unnatural. Encounters feel too perfectly timed. People seem to exist just to move Bill to the next place. And a lot of scenes feel strangely familiar even the first time you're watching them. That's not accidental, that's the structure of the movie. In dreams, you don't usually move forward in clean, logical ways. What happens instead is that situations repeat themselves, but in slightly altered forms. You meet one person, then later you meet someone else who feels like a variation of them. You go through the same emotional situation multiple times, just in different settings. And that's exactly what this movie is doing. It starts with Alice telling Bill about her fantasy. That moment sets everything in motion, but more importantly, it creates a kind of emotional blueprint for this movie. From that point forward, every interaction Bill has is tied back to the same idea: desire, jealousy, and lack of control. But instead of dealing with it directly, the movie keeps representing it to him in different forms. So we have repeating encounters. So he meets Domino. Then later he encounters other women. Then there's the ritual itself. Each of these situations feels different on the surface, but structurally they're very similar. They all place him in a position where something could happen, where he could act, where he could assert control, and then something interrupts it, or shifts it, or removes that possibility. The repetition there is important, because it's not just happening to him, it's how the film moves forward for us as an audience as well. So there's echoes between characters. Even the people he meets start to feel less like individuals and more like variations. Domino, the woman at the party, the masked figures, they all occupy a similar role in different contexts. They're not exactly the same, but they do echo each other. This is very typical of dreams, where one person can sort of transform into another, or different people can feel like they're standing in for the same idea. Another thing is how the world behaves. New York in this movie doesn't feel like a real place. It feels kind of controlled. Bill moves through it almost too smoothly. Every time he needs to go somewhere, something appears to guide him there. In a normal story, that would just be plot convenience, but here, because it keeps happening, it kind of starts to feel intentional, like the environment itself is part of the structure. Again, very similar to how dreams work. You don't question how you got somewhere, you're just there, and it makes sense in the moment. And the fact that they did use that rear projection technique, when Tom Cruise is supposed to be walking down the street, he's actually just walking on a treadmill. A lot of people might have noticed that the first time they saw it, like, hey, that's sort of artificial, but it certainly adds to a dreamlike quality. And then by the time he reaches the mansion where that ritual takes place, everything that's been happening becomes just more exaggerated. The earlier encounters are grounded, more realistic versions of the same situations. The ritual is like a heightened, almost symbolic version of all of them combined. It's not introducing something new as much as it is intensifying what's already been happening. That's another dream characteristic. You start somewhere normal, and gradually things become more abstract and more structured around one single idea. So one of the biggest signs that the film is working like a dream is that cause and effect start to feel weaker as it goes on. Things happen, but not always because of clear decisions. Instead, it feels like one scene leads to another because it's thematically connected, not logically connected. That's why the movie can feel hard to solve if you're looking at it like a puzzle. It's not really built on logic, it's built on association. At the end, Bill returns home and tells Alice everything. On paper, that could be a resolution, but structurally it feels more like waking up from the dream. You're back where you started, but you're not the same, and you can't fully explain what just happened. And even then, there's still uncertainty about what was real, what wasn't, and what it actually meant. So when people ask whether the events in Eyes Wide Shut are real or a dream, I think that question misses the point a little. The film doesn't need to be literally a dream. It's already functioning like one. The repetition, the echoes, the way people and situations blur together, the lack of clear causality, that's all part of the structure, and that's why it stays with you.